introduce ourselves in Kiswahili. So there are different ways of introducing ourselves in Kiswahili. If you remember lesson 1, we said, Mimi ni, me I am. But today we're going to advance that a little bit so that we don't get stuck on Mimi ni. We can now say words like, what's your name? Unaitwa nani? I'm trying to go slow so that we can get the intonations and the pronunciation and pronunciations on the right syllables. Unaitwa nani? Unaitwa nani? Remember, it's a question, so the intonation has to go high. Unaitwa nani? Unaitwa nani? Unaitwa nani? So long as the intonation goes high, I'll know it's a question. And that means you're called who? What's your name? In Kiswahili, it's you're called who? Or some people want to go very formal. Jina lako nani? Jina lako nani? Jina means name, lako means yours, nani means who. Name, yours, who. In English it doesn't make any sense, but in Kiswahili it's perfect Swahili. Jina lako nani? Unaitwa nani? You are called who? Unaitwa means you're called, nani means who. Unaitwa nani? Jina lako nani? How do we now respond to that? My name is Ninaitwa. Can you try and pronounce that? Ninaitwa, for example, me. Ninaitwa Mwalimu Sam. I am called Teacher Sam. Yeah. Ninaitwa Ben, Karen, Jane, whatever name. Ninaitwa, and then you mention your name. Or, let's see the response of jina lako. The response of jina lako will be, jina langu ni, jina, name, langu, mine, ni, is. My name is, name, mine is, jina langu ni. So I want you now to introduce yourself nicely, and let's see how you go. Unaitwa nani? Ninaitwa Sam. Jina lako nani? Jina langu ni. That's very important Kiswahili. So we're going to keep on building these phrases in terms of a dialogue later, and you'll see how good they become. Very important phrase. And you? Na wewe? That was on our first lesson. Mimi ni Sam. My name is Sam. And you? Na wewe? Now this time is unaitwa nani? Ninaitwa Sam. Na wewe? Don't forget na wewe. And you? Na. And wewe? You. Na wewe? Very important. Do you speak English? Ooh, not only English. I don't want to be biased here. Any other language? Do you speak English, Swahili, Portuguese? But let's just use English for today's lesson since I'm using that to teach. Unaongea Kiingereza? Unaongea Kiingereza? Of course, I know other people want to say unasema Kiingereza. Sema is say, ongea is speak. Some people say zungumza, but today I wanted us just to concentrate on that simple verb, ongea. So do you speak English? Unaongea Kiingereza? If you speak it, I don't want to go to you if you speak it first, but if it was Kiswahili, you'd say kidogo tu, just a little bit. Kidogo tu, just a little bit. And if you wanted to go back and say yes, do you remember that phrase yes? You can pause the video, go back a little bit, get to the word yes, and then come and say yes, ndio. And then kidogo tu, kidogo, a little. For example, I might come and say words like ninaongea Kiswahili kidogo. I speak, ninaongea Kiswahili kidogo. Ninaongea, I speak Kiswahili, Swahili kidogo, a little bit. It's your go. Let's go for it. Mambo, unaitwa nani? Ninaitwa Sam. Na wewe? Unaongea Kiingereza? Ndiyo. Ninaongea Kiswahili kidogo. Ninaongea Kiingereza kidogo. Any other languages. I don't want to be biased here, but in this case I'll say ninaongea Kiswahili kidogo. Ninaongea Kiingereza kidogo. Perfect. Well done. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to send us an email and we'll be happy to get back to you. Second part of our self-introduction dialogues. Where do you live? Kwa Kiswahili. How do we say that? Very important. Unaishi wapi? Can you pronounce that? Unaishi wapi? And some people want to say, where do you stay? Unakaa wapi? So the word ishi means live and the word ka means stay. In Kiswahili, they're quite close to each other and there's a very thin line between the differences with the two. So I would say, personally, ishi is more permanent. Where do you live? Permanent. Ka is more temporal. Where do you stay? Or where are you staying? Kwa Kiswahili. So can you pronounce those two words for me? Unaishi wapi? Your turn. Can you pronounce them? Unakaa wapi? Your turn. Can you pronounce it? Perfect. So that means, where do you live? Unakaa wapi? Unaishi wapi? So if someone is responding to you, I live in, how would they say? Ninaishi London, ninaishi Miami, ninaishi Italia, ninaishi. Just mention where you live. Any part of the world, just mention it. Sorry for mentioning Europe only, but you can say any other word. Ninaishi Africa, ninaishi. You just mention where you live. And some people say where they are staying. Ninakaa nyumbani, I'm staying at home. Ninakaa hotelini, I'm staying in the hotel. You just mention where you're staying in Kiswahili. So let's practice that together. I want you to introduce yourself and say, where do you live? And then, I live in. Can you go for it? Unaishi wapi? Unakaa wapi? Remember your intonations on your questions? Ninaishi London. Ninakaa London. And you? Don't forget to always go for and you. Na wewe? Ninakaa Afrika. Ninakaa Kenya. Ninakaa Tanzania. Ninaishi Tanzania. You know, just mention it. What about where are you from? Unatoka wapi? Where are you coming from? So the word toka, it can mean come from or where are you coming from. So sometimes the tense matters, but we'll be looking at that when you'll be constructing Swahili sentences later. Unatoka wapi? Where do you come from? That is meant in terms of countries. Which country do you come from? Which country do you emerge from? Let's hear the response. Ninatoka, for example, ninatoka Marekani. I come from America. Ninatoka Uingereza. I come from England. Ninatoka Uchina. I come from China. Ninatoka Algeria. So any country that you come from, you use ninatoka, I come from. So there's something that you might have started noticing, the u, you, ni, I. We'll be looking at that when you're constructing sentences in a few lessons to come. Sante. So in this dialogue, you're going to have two speakers. And the first speaker will be mwalimu, which means teacher in Kiswahili. Alim in Arabic, teacher, mwalimu kwa Kiswahili. And mwanafunzi, which means student. So you will be my student. Mwanafunzi. So you will be mwanafunzi. I'll be mwalimu. I'll be doing the mwalimu sections. And the mwalimu comes and says, Mambo. Do you remember mambo? Mwanafunzi. It's you. Come on, go for it. Poa, na wewe? I like that. And mwalimu says, Nzuri, habari za leo? Do you remember what that phrase means? This is good. And the mwanafunzi says, Safi, asante. Cool, thank you. Mwalimu comes again and says, Unaitwa nani? What are you called? And the mwanafunzi, you, this is your turn. You come and say, Ninaitwa Sally. Na wewe? I am called Sally. And you? See how we have used and you there? Perfect. Mwalimu. Ninaitwa Ken. Mwalimu Ken. Mwanafunzi says, Vizuri sana. We had also learnt it as vizuri kabisa. Well done. Asante. Mwalimu comes again and says, Unaishi wapi? Or unakaa wapi? You, it's your turn. Ninaishi Nairobi. Na wewe? Ninaishi London. Your turn. Vizuri sana. Kwaheri. So we're going to practice it together, and I'll be highlighting with my pointer, and then you're going to see how you're doing it. I am mwalimu, you are mwanafunzi. Mambo. Your turn. My turn. Nzuri, habari za leo. Your turn. My turn. Unaitwa nani? Your turn. My turn. Ninaitwa Ken. Your turn. My turn. Unaishi wapi? Or unakaa wapi? Your turn. My turn. Ninaishi London. Your turn. Asante. Well done. I hope you've been able to go through that. You can always pause the video and repeat again and again so that your intonations and your pronunciations are perfect. I want you to speak until you're speaking like you have always been there. Asante sana. Now, let's look at the answers to those questions that dialogue that we've had. So the mwalimu comes in, he came and said, Hello, how are things, mwanafunzi? You said, Cool, and you? Mwalimu said, Fine. How are you today? You said, Fine, thank you. Mwalimu said, What's your name? You said, My name is Sally. And you? Mwalimu said, I am called Ken. You said, Very well, thank you. Mwalimu said, Where do you live, or where do you stay? Mwanafunzi, you said, I live in Nairobi. And you? Mwalimu, I said, I live in Nairobi, in London. You said, very well, and goodbye. So on the second part of our dialogue today, you are going to do the practicing. And in this, there will be two people. There will be Aisha, and there will be someone called Bob. So we'll see what is happening. So those phrases that we learned earlier, we put them into practice here. So which one am I gonna be? I will be Bob. You'll be Aisha. Now you're starting the dialogue. You go. Karibu. Poa sana. Salama sana. Ninatoka London. Ndio, kidogo tu. Asante. Whoa, how did that go? All right, well done. That was a good dialogue there. So I want you to pause the video, try and go through your bit, all the other bits that I have done, listen to how I've responded, and also try if you have someone to practice with them, or you can just switch roles and see how those that dialogue is done. So that was practice. Very good. And you can see the answers on the next slide. Answers, majibu. So Aisha came and said, anyone in? But before that, always look at the previous dialogue and see how it went. So very important. Bob came and said, welcome. Aisha, how are things? Bob said, very cool. And you? Do you remember that phrase? Na wewe? Bob said, peaceful, salama. Aisha said, where do you come from? Unatoka wapi? Bob says, I come from London. Ninatoka London. Do you speak Swahili? Yes, a little bit. Okay. And thank you. So the main point here is that you take part of the learning. You take the initiative. You take the center stage in terms of initiating the learning. And I just support you in terms of getting you confident by giving you the intonations of those words. So that was a good one, especially the second dialogue. I want you to practice over and over again. Thank you so much. And you can do it. Take time and practice this kwa Kiswahili. So we're gonna have this dialogue together. Ken, how are things? Sally? Cool. And you? Fine. How are you today? So this is a very important dialogue. So I want you to print this or have it and try and work out what are these kwa Kiswahili. Not only just by writing them, but by you saying them kwa Kiswahili, by you saying them in Kiswahili. Very important, Ken and Sally. Good. And once you finish them, it will be very important to see how they go. So in the next lesson, or before the next lesson, we're going to be, check out our quiz. Check out our quiz for more practice, and that will help you to have the best intonations. And the next lesson will be looking at Swahili verbs, all those, the words ishi, ka, where do they come from, how are they constructed, and from there we are going now to learn the extensive Arabic and Bantu verbs. Asanteni sana kwa kuwa katika lesson ya leo, kwa kuwa katika somo la leo. Nimefurahi kusoma pamoja na nyinyi. I am very happy and I'm very glad to have learned together with you. Kwaherini. Asante.